Story 1. I dug food out of a trash bin behind a restaurant because I was homeless in Boise, Idaho, which does not provide adequate support for homeless individuals and had almost no resources. Story 2. A can of Campbell's bean with bacon soup, chopped hot dogs cooked in the soup, and mixed into a big bowl of white rice. It's tasty, high in sodium, protein, and fiber, providing enough food for 2 full meals. Story 3. A meal comprised entirely of stolen goods. I wouldn't do it today, but I don't regret having done it. Story 4. Spaghetti is both a luxury and a simple meal. I have had spaghetti boiled at home with nothing but salt, and I have also enjoyed a $100 bowl of spaghetti with the most extravagant sauces. Story 5. My family relied on food assistance when I was growing up, but we always had bread and mustard. This is how I started making mustard sandwiches. Story 6. When I was really broke, all I had in my pantry was sweet potatoes, onions, and chickpeas. I cooked them, mashed them together, and seasoned them with salt. I lived off that mash for 3 days until I got paid. Story 7. Oats with brown sugar and margarine to try to make biscuits, but I couldn't figure out how to operate the oven in college, so I just ate the mixture raw. Story 8. Spread mozzarella over a plate, microwave until golden, peel off, let it set, and you have a cheese disc. Story 9. There was a scratch and dent store that occasionally sold unlabeled cans for a nickel or a dime, which fit my budget. Once, I opened 3 cans and they were all the same. I cried because they had different stamps for the lot numbers and Best By dates, leading me to expect some variety. Many canned foods can be improved with a bit of rice or some sautéed onion, and you can mix various canned foods together. So it usually wasn't bad. Story 10. As a child, I had white bread with mustard and sugar. We often used powdered eggs, government cheese, and powdered milk mixed with real milk to make it last longer. Bread was mixed into the meatloaf to ensure there was enough for the whole family. The positive aspect of this is that no one in my family grew up overweight. Story 11. 1 pack of Top Ramen for dinner every night for the first 4 months after moving from Arizona to Colorado due to a tight budget. Story 12. I spent a Thanksgiving alone 1 year and made expired stovetop stuffing moistened with a can of creamed corn. Story 13. When I lived in a place with several guys, I literally had a mattress on the landing of the staircase that was like a reading nook. One of the guys moved out and left some food behind. It consisted of 2 cans of peas, 1 can of corn, 1 can of carrots, a loaf of bread, a can of salmon, a container of beef broth, 2 potatoes, and 1 jar of mayonnaise. I asked the guys if I could make some food from it and use some of their spices. I took the potatoes, seared them, mashed them with a spoon, added the beef broth, and included the can of salmon to make a soup. I rolled the bread into balls and put them in the oven to toast for croutons. I then drained the cans of vegetables, put them in a bowl, and stirred in mayonnaise and seasonings to make a salad. So I ate that. Story 14. When I was a child, I remember my dad borrowing $5 from a friend. We went to the store, and my mom bought a box of instant pancake mix and a bag of potatoes. There may have been more, but that is what I remember. Story 15. My family killed and ate our pet pony when I was young. My dad had not worked in a while, and we were beginning to starve. Story 16. It was a can of corned beef hash that was way out of date. In that same care box was a first aid kit from a store that had been out of business for at least a decade, and the unopened tube of antibiotic had completely evaporated. Story 17. When I was a child, I lived on spaghetti and salad cream. It was all I had in the house. On payday, I would get a bucket of Smarties ice cream as a treat. Story 18. I was living on $2 a day while in Dallas. I would buy a can of Del Monte pasta sauce for $1 and a bag of spaghetti noodles for $1. Story 19. Dandelions. In countries like Greece, especially in rural areas after the war, people learned to use and eat what they could find. My mother-in-law shared how to prepare dandelions, which were literally a meal born out of necessity during difficult times. Story 20. No meal. White rice without condiments is quite difficult, making you understand why the participants on Survivor go crazy. Story 21. I went to a wedding on a Saturday and helped clean up after the reception. I ended up with a gallon-sized bag full of cheese cubes. They were my meals until I received my paycheck on Thursday. Story 22. Craft macaroni and cheese with just butter, no milk. Then add a can of baked beans. For ramen with an egg dropped into it. For heat up some frozen broccoli and cauliflower in the microwave with a pat of Velveeta for flavor. These were frequent meals when I was in school and had less than $10 in my checking account. Story 23. Saltines, sardines, and hot sauce, along with some horseradish if you're feeling fancy. Growing up in a military family, we had what was called rubber check day at the commissary. Payday was on Monday, so you went in on Friday for groceries and wrote a check. Food quality diminished the further you got from payday. Fresher food was consumed after payday, while the days leading up to the next one often consisted of spam, boxed noodles, and the mentioned poverty surf and turf. Story 24. Back when ramen packets were still 10 cents, we would make a packet of ramen and add a little sautéed shrimp to elevate the meal. Story 25. My daughter accuses me of having an eating disorder because I love having nothing but a big bowl of steamed green beans with vinaigrette and slivered almonds or hazelnuts on top. I particularly enjoy the bag of frozen French green beans from Trader Joe's. I don't consider that meal anything but a good dinner. Story 26. Canned cream of mushroom and 2 cans of cream of tomato combined with Italian seasoning and served with noodles. Story 27. Baked beans. Not baked beans and toast. Just baked beans. Tomorrow it's toast. Just toast because I am now out of baked beans. Story 28. We experienced a hurricane, and we were able to salvage some items from the kitchen. Water flowed freely from the hole in the ceiling, and the cabinetry is falling down. We found a can of refried beans and some saltines that were kept dry in Tupperware. It wasn't bad. Story 29. I made an institutional-size can of split pea soup that lasted almost an entire week. The second choice would be a can of Vienna sausages and some stale saltine crackers. Story 30. I made a bag of potato stretch for a week's worth of meals once. It felt like Forrest Gump. You can make fried potatoes, mashed potatoes, scalloped potatoes, diced potatoes, hash browns, and baked potatoes. Story 31. I made cream of mushroom soup and dropped a stale 3-day-old pizza crust in it. And honestly, I would do it again. Story 32. Back in my rock and roll days, I used to search through dumpsters at the nearby Little Caesars, while one of the guys I was in a band with would eat a generic product called potted meat. That was 1 or 2 steps below dog food. I know because I tried it once. Story 33. I used to have cans of tuna for dinner. I had a bag of rice and went 3 weeks eating tuna and bland rice. I lived in a damp basement during winter, paying $200 per month in rent. I had to throw everything away when I got a decent job and could afford a real place. Story 34. Last stale tortilla with the last slice of bologna, the last bits of cheese, and the last ounce of salsa. It was awful and I ate every bite. Story 35. Remember Honey Boo Boo and Mama June? Their go-to meal was pink spaghetti, which consists of spaghetti noodles with butter and ketchup. I quite like spaghetti noodles boiled with olive oil, garlic, and pepper. It is very economical, filling, and tasty. Story 36. Ramen noodles and tomato sauce with seasoning. I am not a complete heathen. It was as great as it sounds. Story 37. Cheese ramen is delicious. There's a place to order it from, and it costs close to $10, but it's really good. Then I realized that if I made shin ramen and added a couple of slices of American cheese, it tasted exactly the same. To make it even better, add a 7-minute egg and steamed broccoli. Story 38. Buttered white rice with sugar. I ate this often when I graduated from college and focused on paying off my student loans. Story 39. Canned burrito made with heated canned chicken and chipotle seasoning, refried beans, hatch chili, and corn. Mix all ingredients together and roll in a heated tortilla. Story 40. Boxed macaroni and cheese stirred in a can of tuna was a childhood staple. It used to be 2 meals for $3. I often made pasta salad with a can of black beans, a can of corn, and chopped peppers. Yellow rice with canned black beans was another option. All of these meals were less than $2 per serving. Eggs were inexpensive as well. Story 41. This happened after working my third 12-hour nursing shift in a row on Sunday night after 7 p.m. I had no time to go shopping and no food. I didn't want to spend money on takeout, so I ate what I had. One meat stick, a pickle, and a blue freezy. Story 42. In college, I bought a 10-pound bag of potatoes and a jug of cooking oil, and I would fry potatoes for meals. Story 43. There are many pale Native Americans today. This situation arises from the historical genocide and exploitation by white people. However, I find it interesting how welcoming every Native person has been towards me, despite my not fitting their exact standards. It seems only white individuals have maintained strict purity standards to be accepted in their culture, at least in my experience. I hope Native people are kind to you and embrace your experiences, teaching you about their culture. It is difficult to lose someone to a cult. Organizations like Mormonism excel at causing division. Story 44. I was nursing and broke, so eating was still required. I mixed a can of sliced potatoes with a can of condensed broccoli and cheese soup, topped with Bisquick, and baked it. It was actually pretty decent. Story 45. Zap 2 to 3 potatoes in the microwave for 10 minutes. Add a tin of tuna and mash. Wilt in some baby spinach. If finances allow, add a bit of cheese. I eat it straight out of the pot when it's mashed. It's a regular staple during my ultramarathon training when I need the carbohydrates. Story 46. In college, McDonald's sold hamburgers for 25 cents on Thursdays. I would buy a dozen, and that would be my weekend food. Story 47. Both my parents worked full-time blue-collar jobs, and we were still eligible for federal commodities in the 1960s, such as butter, canned meat, peanut butter, and oats. I remember many times as a primary school child, I took a lunch of buttered saltine crackers or buttered bread sandwiches. Milk cost 2 cents. Story 48. A bag of frozen mixed vegetables and a pound of spaghetti pasta. Butter and oil, garlic, and dried seasoning if available. It cost under $2 when I made it and provided meals for the kids and me for 2 or 3 days. If I had ground meat or chicken, I would add that for protein. However, the dish is filling on its own, and I would prioritize protein after payday. Story 49. In my college cafeteria, they offered free hot water, ketchup, pickles, and crackers. I prepared tomato soup using the hot water and ketchup. I also made pickle sandwiches with pickles and crackers. It didn't cost me anything. Story 50. When we first met as broke college students, my husband and I would buy a bag of bacon ends from the butcher for about $3. We would salvage the meat, render the fat, add some peas, and make pork fried rice. Story 51. During my freshman year of college, I would eat canned chicken straight from the can at room temperature when the dining hall was closed late at night. Story 52. A cheeseburger without a burger consists of 2 slices of inexpensive white bread and Kraft singles. Melt the cheese in the microwave and pour ketchup on top. In hindsight, it wasn't so bad, but my early 20s were difficult. Story 53. Sleep. Seconds consist of either a dry handful of minute rice or black pepper tea, but frankly, it is not worth the effort normally. Story 54. In my first year of university, I would buy a loaf of bread and get free taco sauce packets at Taco Bell in our food court. When the dining halls were closed and I could not use my meal plan, I would spread the taco sauce on the bread and eat it. I lost 34 pounds that year. Story 55. For 6 or 7 months, I could only afford saltines or ramen. I had to eat the ramen dry because I didn't have water or electricity in my house for over a year. Story 56. I made a salad every night for a week using 1 head of iceberg lettuce, fast food ranch dressing for my roommate's extra sauce stash, and pieces of saltine crackers as croutons. Story 57. A jar of ragu, a box of spaghetti, and a couple of chunks of paleo mozzarella cheese melted just a little would last me for days. Story 58. Idaho potatoes. It's a box of dehydrated potato flakes. Boil water, add potatoes. Instant mashed potatoes. For simple serving, don't add butter. Story 59. I once bought 5 store-brand macaroni and cheese boxes for $1, along with 2 or 3 store-brand boxes of margarine and store-brand powdered milk. I prepared the meal in a simple plug-in hot pot, making it a 35-cent dinner. Story 60. A slice of white bread folded with peanut butter and dipped in canned chili, all from the dollar store or local pantry, remains a regular menu item for me even when I am not in abject poverty. It has become a comfort food. Story 61. Mom used to make something she called sauce bread. I thought it was a fantastic delicacy. It was just savory French toast with tomato or barbecue sauce. Sauce bread is still great, if only eggs weren't so expensive. Story 62. Dry dog food. Then I made a tequila sunrise with cough syrup, which was popular in the 1970s. It was horrible, but I lived another day. Story 63. I found a pack of crackers for $1 at the dollar store. There was a time when I couldn't afford it, but I didn't have gas to go anywhere else. I was pretty sure I had to go straight home. I was also trying to have coffee with my boss at Panera Bread, feeling too embarrassed to tell him that coffee would disrupt my budget. Still, I agreed to the meeting anyway. Story 64. A friend hid an antelope on the highway, took it home, cut it up, and shared it. I have eaten worse meals. Story 65. Off-brand macaroni and cheese, 1 can of peas, and 1 can of tuna. Cook the macaroni and cheese, drain excess water from the peas and tuna, and combine all 3 ingredients with the cheese mix until well blended. This was my grandma's go-to meal to feed us when we visited. According to my husband, it is the worst combination ever. Story 66. I didn't have much money, so I bought a bag of rice and eggs when they were affordable. I mixed the two and had that for a while until I could afford proper food. Story 67. I used to get a bag of day-old bagels for $1. Then I would grab a 49-cent package of inexpensive meat. Usually, the deli had packets of condiments. It was a great meal for $1.50 with plenty of extra bagels. Story 68. I would get free pies, pastries, sausages, and cold cuts from work when I just started working. I didn't have much money and spent most of it on rent because I wanted my own place in the city. So, I would have whatever I could get from work and put it on top of rice. I would buy those 20-kilogram bags of Thai jasmine rice and cook rice every day, adding whatever I could find on top. Story 69. After a tree fell on my car and the insurance company caused issues with my finances, I found myself 3 days away from my next paycheck. At the gas station, I used the last $10 in my bank account to fill up the tank. I then went into the store to use the last $10 on my credit card to buy ramen and a diet soda for the drink I planned to make to help me get through the end of the week. Story 70. Knead some dough made from basic flour and water and shape it like noodles. Boil water, add vegetables, salt, and the noodles and cook them. Then add some soy sauce. That's comfort food for me, but it's a simple dish I could make in university. Story 71. Luckily, I've always had food in the cupboards and a full fridge and freezer. I've never been at a point in my life where I ate dried spaghetti, a bowl of plain rice, or a slice of bread a day for a meal. My mother might not love me like a normal parent would, but she has always ensured I have food to eat. She brings me food every few days. She collects items from the local Tesco that aren't sold, keeps some for herself, and gives the rest to me and mostly elderly people. I have a chest freezer and a fridge stocked with a variety of food. I didn't pay for much of it and probably have enough to last for months. Occasionally, I have to throw out items that have been at the bottom of the freezer for a year. Not to brag, but I have never been food insecure. Story 72. Not sure this counts, but during my homeless days, my best friend and I literally lived on water and bread from the dumpsters at Grace Bakery in Albany, California, and Metropolis Bakery in Berkeley for a solid year. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.